based on her behavior, and the behavior you talk about in the book is just incredible. She was spying on her own employees. At one point, you say in the book that she had her IT director find out that one of her lieutenants had looked at porn on their laptop and then used that as an excuse to fire them and essentially blackmail them out of their stock options?
Right, that happened. I mean, he had actually tried to call her on the fact that they were doing bogus demos. And after 8 months at the company, he was chief financial officer. He was aghast because he thought the demos were real, and he'd been bringing around these investors, and they were certainly under the impression too that the demos were real. And so he confronted her in her office in November 2006. So this is just a couple of years into the life of the company, and said to her, "Elizabeth, we can't do this anymore. It's crossing a line. It's going too far." And she turned ice cold and said to him, "You're not a team player, and I think you should leave right now." And it was very clear from her demeanor and her tone of voice that she meant not just leave her office, but leave the company. And he had been fired. And what then happened is a couple days later, the IT guy, the head of IT, was going through his laptop, and because they were so paranoid about information leaking out, they would take laptops back and phones back, and then they would upload everything to the servers. And in the process of doing that, it came across the fact that the now fired CFO had browsed porn on his work laptop, which is probably not something you should do, but the IT guy didn't think it was something worthy of capital punishment either. And he unfortunately told Elizabeth about it, and she then used it to claim that that's why he was fired and to deny him stock options. And this is a 22-year-old woman at this point. So at a very young age, she has learned to be incredibly ruthless.
And manipulative. And she seemed to get people to buy into her being the next Steve Jobs, and she had some sort of obsession with Steve Jobs that you sort of outline in the book. She hired a bunch of Apple employees early on.
Right.
She would wear the turtleneck. And how much now that, because you're an outsider, you're from Brooklyn like me, you're not like part of this thing out here. How much of this is that she pattern matched, or that she checked boxes that made people want to believe that this was the female Steve Jobs?
I mean, there was a lot of that going on, and it was encouraged. It was actually actively encouraged by these older men who were in her entourage. Channing Robertson was her engineering professor at Stanford, and supported her when she dropped out and joined her board and accompanied her on pitches to VC companies. And he was quoted in some early stories in the tech press. One was in Inc., another one was in Red Herring. And one of them, and this is going back in early 2006, he already is comparing her to Steve Jobs and to Bill Gates.
Wow.
Don Lucas, whom she met.
Famous venture capitalist.
Right, who groomed Larry Ellison, helped him take Oracle public in the mid-'80s. He became chairman of Theranos' board for a while and invested money and convinced Larry Ellison to invest money as well.
And to an extent, chief enabler?
Yeah. I mean, certainly, I think he was, the record pretty much shows that he was manipulated too, to some extent. But he helped her with his network of contacts and helped her gain credibility. And so, you had these older men around her that she manipulated.